And if you want a mask but you don't have one, there's extras in the back at the check-in desk. Again, I want to thank everyone for being here today. The State of the ASUU event is a chance for the university community to hear from our wonderful presidency and to ask any questions that you might have. And just to give you a bit of a heads up on the structure of this event, I'll soon be passing out the mic to the presidency for their presentation that they prepared for us. And they'll introduce themselves, discuss their agenda, and then please save any of your questions until the end of the event when we can open the floor. So once the floor has been open for questions, we will direct the order in which you guys can ask your questions. If you are attending virtually in the live stream, you can drop those in the chat or go to the ASUU Instagram Q&A story and put those there. Any of those questions on the ASUU Instagram story, we will review later and then the answers on the story so that everyone can access those. So without further ado, I will go ahead and hand off the floor to the presidency for the presentation. So if everyone could give them a warm welcome.
All right, thank you everyone for being here. Good afternoon or morning, whatever you consider noon. Thank you all so much for being here today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jess Wojciechowski, and I'm the current student body president. I use the she, her pronouns. My presidency was elected back in March, and we became the first all-female student body presidency. My vice presidents, Tiffany and Maryan, and my chief of staff, Sanila, are the most hardworking, determined, compassionate, and accomplished leaders and women I've ever had the privilege of knowing. Working alongside them has truly been a dream, and today I'm excited for you to hear about some of the work we've been busy doing and our plans moving forward. We ran on a platform with the slogan, "Students Empowering Students," and we work for you, the students of the University of Utah, and I'm here to listen and elevate your voices on our campus. We will move on with our presentation then and start off with a land acknowledgement from Maryan.
Okay. So the University of Utah has both historical and contemporary relationships with Indigenous peoples. Given that the Salt Lake Valley has always been a gathering place for Indigenous people, we must acknowledge that this land, which is named for the Ute tribe, is a traditional and ancestral homeland of Shoshone, Paiute, Goshu, and Ute tribe that is a crossroad for Indigenous peoples. The University of Utah recognizes the enduring relationship between many Indigenous peoples and their traditional homelands. We are grateful for the territory upon which we gather today. We respect Utah's Indigenous peoples, the original stewards of this land, and we value the sovereign relationships that exist between tribal governments, state governments, and the federal government. Today, approximately 60,000 American Indian and Alaska Native peoples live in Utah. As a state institution, the University of Utah is committed to serving Native communities throughout Utah in partnership with Native nations in our urban Indian communities through research, education, and community outreach activities.
Just going to go back a little bit. So this was our team. I already introduced myself and Jess. And then Tiffany, Maryan, and Sanila. Tiffany, Maryan will be able to hear from, and then Sanila, unfortunately, got sick, and so I'll be giving her part, but she is here and she is. Just a brief introduction of kind of our duties and roles. The president serves as the chief executive officer of ASUU, acts in the interest of the university student body. VP of University Relations, which is Tiffany, promotes the interests and welfare of the ASUU to the university staff, faculty, and administration. And Vice President of Student Relations, which is Maryan, promotes a reciprocal relationship between the ASUU government and university students to facilitate collaboration among students. And then Chief of Staff, which is Sanila, oversees the executive branch on behalf of the presidency, facilitates collaboration between campus organizations, etc. So we'll just go over the agenda. We already went over the land acknowledgement. Then we'll hear from each of us, and then we'll open it up for questions. So starting off with me, some of my responsibilities and committees that I sit on include the Board of Trustees. I'm the only student representative there. I think there's like 9 of us on the board. And there I act as well, I don't act, I'm an advocate for student voices to be heard by university administration. Those of you who aren't familiar with the Board of Trustees, a lot of very important bills are seen there. Like any dorms or buildings that are being built has to pass through the Board of Trustees. Pretty much anything that impacts the university goes to the Board of Trustees. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to take some, since I know that I'm the only student there, so sometimes students really aren't that informed about what's happening there. I also sit on the campus master plan and the honorary degree committees. The campus master plan basically announces like all the new buildings. So if there's a new dorm going up, if like there's a building being rebuilt or something for the hospital being added, that all goes through the Board of Trustees and first the campus master plan. So it's kind of interesting to sit on that board. And then the honorary degree committee. So each graduation, there are individuals who receive honorary degrees, which is considered to be like the highest honor to receive from university, at our university specifically. So it's been interesting to kind of hear the proposals and see who will get an honorary degree this year. I also sit on the Utah Student Association, also known as USA, and it's a board comprised of all student body presidents from across the state. So like Utah State, Weber State, all of the universities. It's a really cool thing to be a part of. And we are also doing statewide initiatives in USA to benefit Utah higher ed as a whole. And I'll jump into those in my next slide. I also sit on academic senate and kind of bridge the relationship between students, faculty, and administration. And there I also sit on key committees, mainly the athletics advisory committee, which has been cool, especially with like COVID and seeing how athletes and like athletics in general have been impacted by COVID. That's been interesting to be a part of. And then I also sat on Project Boomerang, which was a task force to bring students back to campus safely during COVID. So that was really interesting. The first time I've ever had to figure out a plan to get out of the pandemic. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. Some of my past and future projects. So Lauren's Promise, which is from the Lauren Rescue Foundation. It says, or it reads, I will listen to you if someone is threatening you. And last year, there was a piece of legislation written by the VP of University Relations, Ayana Michi. And this year I took that legislation to USA, which is the Utah Student Association. And we passed a piece of legislation on the state level. And then also I helped other student body presidents pass similar bills at their universities to get Lauren's Promise in professor syllabi who wish to do so. And then I also encouraged and helped all other institutions hold a memorial walk for the Lauren McCluskey, and also just create awareness about domestic violence on campuses. So that was a really cool thing to experience and see not only what Tiffany was able to do on our campus, but also what other campuses were able to do in collaboration with the Lauren McCluskey Foundation. And then in the future, I'm also hoping to, I'm currently working on the logistics of getting feminine hygiene products in all of the bathrooms. That's another thing that I've been working on with USA as well. I'm figuring out the logistics for each university. And then also in USA, we're working on FAFSA promotion. And if you guys weren't aware, a lot of students, like a very substantial amount, don't fill out their FAFSA, which excludes them from being eligible for many scholarships. So we're kind of working on some sort of like marketing campaign to get the word out about FAFSA, how to do it, because it's just hasn't been well informed enough for many students at all campuses. So that's something we're working on. And then we also have a few safety initiatives and events in the works, which I believe many of you will be talking a little bit more about, but this is something that's always on our mind and that we are going to keep working on. So I'd love to hear the questions for that as well. All right, I'm going to pass my time over to you.
Thanks, Jess, and I apologize for my tardiness. I got out of class. But I am VP of University Relations. My name is Tiffany. I use she, her pronouns. I'm going to be going over some of the memberships and roles that I hold, as well as past events that I've held and current projects / future projects that I'm. So some of the memberships that I am on, this is a non-exhaustive list because there are always opportunities for me to be involved and to represent student voice. But one of them is the Utah System of Higher Education's Campus Safety and Equity Commission. So this is a large commission comprised of student leaders across many USA institutions who are dedicated to campus safety and equity. So far, my contributions have been presenting to the campus crime trends and numbers across all USHE campuses. And I also advocated for more campus resources and preventative measures, which means like more funding and support for victim survivor advocacy and violence prevention practices. And so given this, we also presented a lot of recommendations to USHE themselves. And so now they're just in the process of like reviewing the recommendations that we brought forward to them. The next responsibility I have is sitting on the McCluskey Center for Violence Prevention Advisory Board. So what this means is that we review priorities of the NCVP education curriculum, and we also go over the working group's progress because the center is dedicated to preventative education and practices. And so these working groups, which involve students, has helped contribute to that aim. And then another thing that I also do is we discuss the future plans and priorities for NCVP. The third membership that I hold is the advisory committee for the Campus Climate Initiative with Hillel International. If you're not familiar with this, Hillel International is a organization dedicated to support Jewish students in higher education. So far we have assessed the campus climate for Jewish students, and we also have been evaluating recommendations. So far, we are still assessing those recommendations and seeing whether they are going to be beneficial for Jewish students. And lastly, I sit on the Learning Abroad Synergy Scholarship Committee. We're responsible for administering, monitoring, and implementing the Office for Global Engagement Student Fee Scholarship. So this helps students who are wanting to engage in learning abroad. Other than that, here's like the past event that I did most recently on October 22nd, which was the second annual Lord McCluskey Memorial Walk. So we had key collaborators like ASUU, the McCluskey Foundation, NCVP, and also for the first time, SAFE, which is a student action focused empowerment group. And at the event, there were 5 key initiatives that were announced. I don't have to read over them, but you can take a glimpse of what the Lord McCluskey Foundation is wanting to do for the next few years in promoting campus safety and also awareness of dating violence. And now that I'm done with the Lord McCluskey Memorial, I'll share like some current projects that I'm working on. So the first is the API joint resolution. This is in its very, very beginning stages, so I haven't done quite anything with it yet. But the goal is to pass it through legislative channels in order to promote solidarity with Asian Pacific American students on campus. Right now, I'm in the process of contacting potential key contributors to the project, and then we're also trying to identify actionable ways to support students. But like I said, this is in its very beginning stages, and we don't even know what it's going to look like. But I'm always constantly thinking about how we can support our students and show up in solidarity. Next thing is our ASUU Scholarship Board. Basically, ASUU, we distribute financial needs-based scholarships awarded to any University of Utah student. The application is also coming soon on the ASUU website, so I hope you all can stay tuned for that, and you will find out more through social media and through lots of marketing. But that is very close to being published. And then the last 2 things that I'm working on is mental health initiatives, like Jess had mentioned. So this includes like support services, programming, and diversification of services, and we're going to look into that. My predecessor, VP of University Relations, Ayana Michi, she also was a heavy advocate for mental health initiatives, and she had lots of great ideas, and so I've been looking into those. And then lastly, safety initiatives that also includes like programming. We're going to be gathering feedback. Vice President of Civil Relations, Maryan Shale, has been doing lots of great work with that. And then we're also going to look at how we can highlight resources and promote more student-led initiative building. Yeah, that is all that I have. I know I went through that relatively quickly, but if there are any questions at the end, I'd love to hear them.
How is everyone doing? Okay. All right. That's me for the really much next time. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a few memberships of committees that I sit on currently. So I am the chair, or I run the Student Leadership Council. So I meet with student leaders from different organizations discussing ways in which ASUU can support them. So I currently meet with students from like RHA, which is like the Residence Hall Association, Campus Edible Gardens, some students that are part of Greek Life, etc. So those who are doing a lot of good work, definitely took that opportunity to be a student leader and are advocating for their student organizations. I meet with them, see what ways that ASUU can support them, whether it's like financially, kind of like, giving them those resources that they like probably aren't aware of, or just talking about, hey, like what are ways that we can collab on an event? Like, should we do a panel? What should we do? So those are definitely in the works. We have our next meeting November 22nd at 3. Y'all would like to come? Y'all are more than welcome to sit in. The next thing is the Public Safety Advisory Committee. So I am a co-chair. I'm on PSAC, so we assist the Chief Safety Office with development of strategic direction of the Department of Public Safety. And we're bringing a lot of safety concerns, recommendations, and ideas. So a lot of conversations that have been happening in PSAC so far is just like, what type of safety and like, where should we put our energy to? And the type of conversations that people would like to have. There's a lot of like aspects of safety that people don't really consider, like pedestrian safety or like wildlife safety. We have a lot of deer. Are they deer? I don't know. They walk around campus all the time, and I always think I'm gonna hit one. But it's like those different like aspects of safety, whether it's like, relationship like violence or like any type of safety, we're really trying to work like build what type of safety that we should work on, like, definitely some ideas moving forward with that. So I also sit on the Board of Governors, which is like through the alumni board. So I just provide a lot of student input. I sit on these committees for events like homecoming, Youth Giving Day, Founders Day. So I just work with university alumni. If they're hiring someone, if they're looking for like somebody like to like give like an honorary mention to or so, I kind of just like help them over, those applications, for example, and really just trying to bridge the gap between alumni and students. So the alumni house is working on a lot of amazing things. We have a lot of mentorship programs, a lot of opportunities for students to get involved, kind of just like reciprocate that back and letting students know about that. So I usually take that opportunity, let like my student leadership council know, hey, these are some cool opportunities that you can be involved in, et cetera, et cetera. I also sit on the travel review committee, so reviewing travel and reimbursement requests. There's a lot, but we're definitely looking through those. And I sit on the union board, which is student representation, input to union updates. I know we're trying to hit a new union, so thinking about things like ADA accessibility, et cetera. So. Current projects. So we are working on a diversity podcast. I kind of took like the lead on it in a way. So definitely working with student media to find a way to cater to non-traditional or international students who may not be on campus or the state. We're definitely living in a very hybrid world right now. There are some students who aren't really accounted for on campus. So thinking of ways that they can still like have resources, still know about what's happening in ASUU, still have access to certain things like these students are on campus, but in a podcast form. So we will be giving ASUU updates, campus resources across the board to our campus community, highlighting certain departments, offices, and scholarships, facilitating conversations about unity, diversity, equity for students for them to tune into. That's definitely in the works with student media. We are having conversations with them. I'll be sending over an outline. So that's definitely in the works. And then just a couple like safety initiatives, so programming, feedback gathering, and working with the chief safety office. I think the safety office definitely notices a lot of distrust in the community regarding campus police and just all things safety. So they're really working with me and my co-chair to like help us find ways that we can all work together so students can feel safe on campus. It's not just a school, but some people live here, it's their homes, it's where they're gonna be for the next 2, 3, 4 years. So really taking that into consideration. And another thing is the class link and class gift. So that is coming up really fast. So setting up an outline for the qualifications and taking into consideration student leader input of like what the class gift would be. I want to do what my predecessor did. He was able to like sort of like ask people or ask students to like, you know, hey, what can I, oh, I'm sorry, but it's never. So with the class link, I forgot its name, but it's okay. I'm just gonna ask students, hey, what is a class link that y'all would like, or like, you know, what's something this year that, you know, really stood out to you that you think represents the class of 2022? Same with the class bid, and really work with that, so.
Okay, and then since Sanila can't be here, I'm gonna go over her slides and what she does. So Sanila is our chief of staff, and she facilitates weekly executive cabinet meetings to facilitate event planning and promote engagement within the branch. She handles communications between the campus organizations and the presidency. So a lot of what she does is schedule meetings, follow up on initiatives, encourage cooperation. She really keeps us on our toes. And then she also supports the presidency and their initiatives and with their platform. And Sanila is a part of our presidency. Initially when we ran on a particular three, but she's one of us. So we're a presidency of 4 with the 2 VPs, and then Sanila is always with us. She keeps us on our toes, and she oversees ECAB, also known as the Executive Cabinet, which includes, we have several boards. So diversity, which is Maryan, academic affairs, which is Audrey, who's holding this amazing event, government relations, Lauren, elections, Andrew, finance, Taylor, sustainability, Zoe. We just have all these amazing leaders. We have the campus events board led by Abby, student resources led by Elmise, first year council by Tressa, student religion outreach by Tracy, and marketing by Sydney. So Sanila oversees all those 11 people and make sure that they're being supported and getting the resources and support that they need for their boards. And then she also on the executive side is the legislative and judicial branches and their leadership. So the Senate chair, who is Gloria, Senate chair, which is Sarah, who's in the audience, Chief Justice, which is Saba, and then Attorney General, which is Mike Miller. So Sanila just works with all of those people that I just mentioned. And then just some like events happening within the executive branch. The campus events board held homecoming week. Homecoming nights are super fun. The diversity board held ASUU's diversity training, which is really fantastic. Government relations held a super successful campaign carnival. And then in the future, the diversity board is holding the conference on diverse excellence, also known as CODE. And then elections are happening relatively soon, which is crazy to me. And then the finance board is working on facilitating a smoother process for student organization funding requests. So much needed. I think that concludes our presentation then. Thank you guys for presenting all of your hard work to us. That was a lot of great information, and I'm sure we're all very excited for what you guys have in the future. At this time, I'd like to open up the floor for questions that you have directed to the presidency. We'll be walking around the audience with the mic, so once you've been called on, we will come to you with the microphone and you can ask a question. For those in the live stream, again, feel free to drop questions in the chat or head to the ASUU Instagram to ask those in the Q&A store.
So I will call on people and direct the question towards the presidency. So
Hi, my name is Benman. I'm the treasurer of the ASUU Assembly. I had a question regarding funding. So obviously with COVID last year, ASUU didn't have an opportunity to spend as much money as they want to, which means that we have like rollover budget. With that, I was wondering if you guys have any specific plans regarding how that rollover budget is going to be spent, any specific projects that you're looking forward to. Thank you.
So, thank you for that question. Edmund has a little bit more background into the future night, but essentially because of COVID, there was like a freeze on much of the budget. Just travel wasn't happening. A lot of the budget couldn't be used. So from there, the budget that wasn't used rolls over into the like the reserve, general reserve, and then that has a cap on it, and then long story short, eventually, and whatever, like, once all the caps are reached, it goes into the presidential operating fund, or reserve, which I'm overseeing. And there is quite a bit of rollover, as Ben mentioned, so we've been brainstorming and talking with students nonstop to figure out how to use that fund. As I mentioned, the feminine hygiene products in every restroom on campus, that is something that would be used from that fund. I'm working with Taylor, who is the finance board director, and he is working on a survey that he just sent out to all of the executive branch to see if boards have any ideas and initiatives that they would like to use additional funding for. Because I want to like not only do things that like the presidency wants to do, but also what the executive branch wants to do and on the initiatives. So we're working on that right now to also use part of that. And then we're planning on investing some of it into the endowment fund, which will in turn help with future scholarships and be like a more sustainable thing, because I mean COVID, it's just been really difficult and there's a lot of fun. So the most like sustainable changes that we can do with that money is like kind of a plan moving forward. Those are just kind of the like, initial things that we're working on, and there's quite a bit of rollover. So finding out the best way to use it. If anyone has any input there too, I'm happy to talk after this event. But those are the beginning things, and then potentially some sort of event or like safety initiative is kind of in the early brainstorming phases right now. But that's another thing that we would like to use some of that rollover for. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Benjamin. Jess, does anyone else have any questions for Maryan?
Hi, my name is Mason. I'm not sure who they're going to be. But the first question I had is about the fees you were just talking about. I've been looking online throughout the ASUU website and throughout the University of Utah, and I haven't seen a lot of transparency on like accountability of how the trees are, how the fees are being used, if these different fees that we're paying are like reporting back to the students and like providing this feedback. I'm just curious if there was like, maybe I'm just not looking in the right places.
No, you're totally fine. Thank you so much for that question. I'll go ahead and answer this one. If you guys want to add anything. But I totally agree with you. I think the transparency has historically been a pretty big issue in the ASUU. And something that I want to do, and that I've also been working with Taylor on, is figuring out a way to be more transparent on the website and get more information on there. But also, it's very uncommon for a president to acquire like such a big rollover into their budget because of like a pandemic. And so when I first like found out like what was in that rollover budget, I was like, oh my goodness, like I want to work with as many people, get as many eyes and like hands on this as possible so we can get it out to like students in the best way. But not every president would do that. And that was like the initial thing that I thought about. I was like, that doesn't sit right with me. And so some things that we've been talking about and discussing internally, nothing has like been confirmed yet, is figuring out if we need to like raise the caps on like the general reserve or anything, because the general reserve is open to like anyone in like caps, so whether it's like student orgs in assembly wanting more money and like assembly runs out of their funding, or if it's like the academic affairs board, if they need more money, it's open to them and they wouldn't have to like come to the president first. So we've talked about potentially raising that cap. And then another thing that we have discussed is potentially creating some sort of red book clause that holds so red book, sorry, let me just give background. Red book is the constitution of ASUU. So that's like where all of our duties and like responsibilities are outlined, and something that I think would be beneficial is drafting some sort of legislation that would hold presidents accountable for like the budgets that they acquire and how they can use it, and just kind of like outlining more like what that is to be used for, and maybe putting like some sort of cap on it. But yeah, we have definitely been talking about this because transparency has been an issue, and it's something that means a lot to me. I've been trying to be as transparent as possible, but it's not on the website, which is an issue. And so that is definitely something that I will take and figure out how we can increase transparency within like social media and the website, and where students first look instead of like emailing me, obviously. But it's something on my mind, and I hope that those ideas that I shared would be good in holding leaders accountable for the money and student fees that they have, and making sure that it's being used in a way that's benefiting the most amount of students and the students that need it most. So I hope that answered your question.
I just want to add really quick that we promised to not raise student fees, and we're still going to keep by that promise. So like the percentages that you may see on that page, we're not going to raise that. And I also want to note that all the student fees that students pay towards ASU, that's like all of our income. So anything that's being funded, like events, programming, the homecoming gift that we saw this year, that all came from student fee money. Obviously, we still have a lot of rollover. In terms of giving back to students, like maybe more financially, that's what my ASU scholarship board is doing. We're trying to give students back like financial needs-based scholarships. And so we're looking into trying to make things more financially accessible to students. So that's what my ASU scholarship board is doing. And the way that I'm running the scholarship board like this year is like relatively new. So it's been a little bumpy, but we will definitely distribute scholarships like this semester and next semester. Like I will make that happen.
Awesome, thank you. And it's okay if I ask another couple questions.
Yeah, go for it.
So I noticed on the ASU website that the Assembly and that the Senate both have their agendas and their like meetings minutes posted. Does the executive branch have like a regular meeting times that they meet, and are those minutes available, or are those meetings open to the public?
So sorry, also Chief of Staff, so she might want to take this question. But we do meet regularly on Thursdays, and we this one.
Sorry, folks, I sound a little stuffy, but it's not COVID, so I'm here today. We do meet weekly on Thursdays at 5 p.m. and that's all the branch heads. So our directors of each board. And although that's not open to public, us as a presidency, we do have office hours that are weekly. And we've also been needing to post that on the website, but Taylor's gotten an immense job with the budget. So in terms of like transparency with that, it's been kind of difficult while asking like our marketing director to market for every event within ASU and also keep track of the budget and like update the website in a timely manner. So that's something we need to get better at. But if you have questions regarding like meeting minutes, we do take notes every week, and we have board updates, and we'd be happy to post that on our website if that's something that can like help with transparency in terms of how we're using our time and what we discuss.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I think it's actually required by law too. So, and then the only other question I had was, I know that VP of Student Affairs, you're on a couple boards. Are you the only student representative on these committees?
No. So like for example, with like the alumni house, we have like a few students like the bus board, them on there. So I'm not the only student representation for these boards, but for the PSAC one, me and my co-chair Nichols, with like a presidential ambassador or something, we're the co-chairs. So we're the only two student co-chairs there. But everywhere else, I'm just more like
ASUU representative or representation. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm the director of academic affairs, and I actually put people on those committees. So if you ever have a question about like specific committees or what student representation looks like in those, I do have access, and I'd be happy to talk about that or how to get involved with those committees. So. Anybody else in the audience? All right, we do have a couple of questions that we had come in on the Instagram Q&A. So if you guys wouldn't mind answering those. The first one was, how is the transition from the previous presidency into this one, given like COVID and the first all-female presidency and that kind of thing? So do you have any thoughts on that? I think like the transition was just a little harder because not only were we like transitioning when it was COVID, but we're also transitioning like while we're trying to get out of COVID. So it's like, it's not just like, oh, like, just keep your mask on and, just like have a good day, but it's more like, hey, there's some few like, COVID initiatives or some things happening surrounding COVID. We're trying to move away from that, we're trying to get people vaccinated, trying to go back to this normal quote unquote world. So we're just sort of stuck in the middle of like trying to like keep everybody safe, also trying to move back to a normal world. But I think like transitioning during COVID was very hard because some of like the things that people were working on that would like happen virtually or things that they did because of COVID will work right now in a way because we're trying to move away from that just only virtual space. Now we're trying to bring everybody back. We're trying to have like people present within one another, but still trying to have certain like safety precautions. So it is a bit weird. I think the attendance and like people learning more about ASUU or being like even aware of like the student government has been a little weird because they weren't really aware of like the last presidency because it was like virtual, but now as like the incoming hybrid presidency, I'll say, people sort of know about us, so that they kind of know what we're doing, but they're still unaware. They don't know if like they can access us virtually or on campus. So like we're all just trying to find ways to really like reach out, whether it's like through our own personal Instagram or through our Wojciechowski Instagram, trying to like let students know like, hey, like we're here, you can still talk to us. We're not just an email, or we're not just like a virtual platform.
Yeah, the only other thing I was going to add as well is our jobs, like in Redbook, it's outlined like every student body president and every like vice president of student relations has like the same like duty outlined in Redbook. Everyone kind of interprets it a little bit differently, and where the last presidency was like completely online for most of their like time in presidency, like it. When we came in, it was like still online, but like you're going in person, and like it was just like it was a lot. And then like for me, I spent like a vast part of the entire summer working on like Project Boomerang, figuring out how to get students back to campus, what will events look like, and then like working on like the vaccine requirement with the board of trustees. Like so, there's just been like a lot of that happening, which like you couldn't really like train anyone on because like this is the first time I have come out of a pandemic before, especially when like as like a student leader. So it was just very interesting to kind of see like what Ethan, the past student body president, was doing, and then like transitioning to mine because all of a sudden it was like they were like still online, and then oh wait, we're completely in person, and then so it's just like a lot. I would say that the transition is difficult, but just by nature of like the status of the world right now, and then like also in addition to that, it's just been like a weird time to like be a college student, and like my college student experience has been different than like what my predecessors was. So the transition is rough, but we made the best out of it, and it wasn't rough because of like necessarily the position, but just how the position looks differently depending on like the environment. So
And then the next two questions that we had come in are kind of related, so I'll just ask both at the same time. So it was, how would you suggest getting in contact with the presidency moving forward, or just ASU in general? And then where to find those updates and information, which we kind of already talked about, but yeah, so any thoughts on that, as well as how to get involved?
I think the best way to find information about ASUU is our website, and that has contact information as well. Like I said, one of the things that we're trying to get better on is updating it so that our office hours are on there, as well as our weekly minutes for our meetings during our executive committee meetings. But that's the best way. You can also reach out to any of us via email. If you click on, like, if you go to each of the branch pages, there's contact information for each branch head as well as members of the presidency. So if you have questions, you can direct those to us. And if we can't necessarily help you, then we'll find somebody who will be able to answer those.
I mean, also, like, I think an obvious one is you often come to the ASU office. At first, there's a lot of questions like concerned, like whether or not, people can be in there, or like what that would look like with COVID. But most of the time we are in office. We often set up meetings, at the front desk, to meet with us or meet with a certain person individually, or finding us online, like through our own personal, like Instagram, or just like just walking right down that sort of involvement, just trying to be like, hey, can I start a meeting with someone? Because they'll definitely help you at the front desk to meet with us. If you're not able to, like, find us, for example, like, to the ASU website. Yeah, we're just always over there. So that's also another option. I know a lot of people are on campus per se. So I think really just doing a better job with the website for now, but just knowing that y'all can, come see us in the office or set up a meeting in person as well.
I mean, I was also just going to add, but we have like 11 boards too, and you can always reach out to a board director if you're interested in how to get involved moving forward. You can attend the Assembly or Senate meeting. Those are open. Yeah, there's like plenty of like events too where you can like come and like just reach out. So kind of my advice if you want to get involved is to just reach out and like shoot your shot almost to be able to learn more about ASU and get some experience there. So.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, well, before we conclude, I'm going to pass off to Ashley, but before then, I just want to remind everyone we do have refreshments, like drinks and snacks down on the union patio. So after we conclude, feel free to head down there, grab some snacks. We'll also be hanging out, and if the presidency has time, they'll be hanging out too. So if anyone has any questions or maybe something personal they didn't want to, say in the whole room, that's totally fine. So yeah, come find us there and pass off that.
So we are now unfortunately out of time for questions, but we will continue to answer any questions and any prompts we receive in the ASU Instagram Q&A. So if you have any additional questions, you can just drop them in there throughout the day. And if you think of anything later, you can reach out to us through email or through any of the websites. So we will be sending out the recording of the live stream in case you missed anything, or if any of your peers were unable to attend today and would like to know what's going on. And I would like to just thank you all for attending this afternoon on behalf of the Board of Academic Affairs and the ASU presidency. We greatly appreciate all of your time and questions. I also want to extend a huge thank you to our presidency for giving our community this opportunity to speak with them and ask questions. We are all amazed by your work, and I can personally say I am proud of everything you guys are doing. You have so many great things in store too. So thank you so much. So this now concludes the 2021 State of the ASUU event. Please make your way down to the union patio for refreshments. The presidency, Audrey, and I will be sticking around for a while. So if you have any other questions like Audrey, we'll be down there. Yeah, so reach out, and if you have anything, you can add it in the Q&A. Thank you.